Can a nation that once, saw its automotive dreams kind of stall out, like literally on a national stage, actually become the next electric vehicle powerhouse?
It's a good question.
That's what we're diving into today with Togg, Turkey's ambitious leap, you could say, into that EV market.
Yeah.
You sent over a whole stack of articles on this.
Right.
And it's a story that, I don't know about you, but it really gets the gears turning for me.
It really captures the imagination, doesn't it? This isn't just about cars. It's about a country aiming to redefine itself on the global stage,
Absolutely. And there's this fascinating layer of history here.
Yeah, definitely.
Back in 1961, Turkey tried to launch its own car, the Devrim. You know what that means?
Revolution.
Revolution, yeah.
Yeah.
But during its debut, get this, it stalled, like literally. So is Togg haunted by that memory? Or is this like fueled by this determination to kind of rewrite history?
It's a question worth considering. But let's maybe fast forward to today.
Right.
Turkey isn't exactly a newcomer to the automotive world.
Okay.
They've been a major supplier for these traditional car makers for decades.
Like what, parts and things like that?
Parts, yeah, exactly. I mean, heck, some of those parts in the Tesla Elon Musk launched into space, those were Turkish made.
That's right. So they've got the know-how, they've got the workforce, they've got that existing infrastructure. So this isn't like starting totally from scratch.
Right.
But what's got me curious is how does a parts supplier, right, transform into this like leading EV manufacturer?
That transformation is precisely what makes Togg so intriguing. I mean, they've been moving at lightning speed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Togg, which stands for Turkey's Automobile Joint Venture Group, was only established in 2018, and yet they've already got this massive factory up and running, and they're rolling out their first SUV model, the T10X.
The T10X. I've seen pictures, and it looks sleek. But what's under the hood, so to speak? Is this just a good-looking car, or is there some serious tech driving it?
They're definitely aiming for that premium market, going head-to-head with the established luxury brands.
Wow.
The T10X boasts some seriously impressive tech specs. For example, it features a dual-motor, all-wheel drive system in its highest trim level, setting it apart from many competitors in its class. They're also focusing heavily on range, which is a major selling point for EVs, as you know.
Range is key, especially for those concerned about making that switch from gas. Now, I read that in its first year, the T10X actually outsold Tesla's first model in its debut year.
Wow.
Is that a fair comparison, though, or are we talking apples and oranges here?
You bring up a good point. It's always tricky to make direct comparisons across different eras in the auto industry. I mean, the market conditions when Tesla launched were very different. However, I will say those early sales figures for Togg do highlight a strong, domestic appetite for what they're offering.
So Turkish consumers are on board. But what about the global stage? There's been talk about Togg partnering with a Chinese company to build a massive lithium-ion battery factory in Turkey.
Right.
That sounds like a power move.
It certainly is. Partnering with Ferasis Energy, a major player in battery tech, shows that Togg understands a crucial element of the EV game: controlling your supply chain, particularly for those all-important batteries.
Makes you wonder, are they trying to become a major battery supplier themselves down the line? Now, that would be a game changer.
It's not outside the realm of possibility. Remember, their ambitions extend beyond simply manufacturing cars. They're positioning themselves as a force in EV technology as a whole, and it's all happening against the backdrop of an electric vehicle market in Turkey that's absolutely exploding.
We're talking faster growth than even Italy and Spain, according to one of these articles.
It's incredible.
That's incredible. So it's not just Togg. There's a whole ecosystem growing around them. What's fueling that kind of growth spurt?
Well, having a homegrown success story like Togg doesn't hurt. It generates a lot of buzz and excitement, but the Turkish government also deserves credit. They've been rolling out policies designed to incentivize, electric vehicle adoption.
Incentives for buyers, investment in charging infrastructure, things like that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That creates a whole different landscape for EVs.
Exactly. And let's not forget, Tesla has also made its entrance into Turkey.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's increased competition for sure, but it's also drawn more attention to the EV sector overall. You've got this perfect storm brewing, a domestic manufacturer people are excited about, those supportive government policies we talked about, and then just this growing awareness of the benefits of EVs.
Yeah. It sounds almost too good to be true.
Yeah.
And since this is a deep dive, we have to explore the other side of the coin a little bit, right?
Of course, yeah.
What are the potential roadblocks that Togg might encounter.
You're right. No deep dive is complete without kind of looking at the challenges, right?
Right.
While there's plenty of optimism surrounding Togg, some experts have voiced skepticism about their ability to, truly compete on a global scale long term.
Yeah. What are their concerns? Is it simply a matter of Togg being like a relatively new company in an industry that's, dominated by giants?
That's definitely a factor. Building a car company from the ground up is incredibly difficult and capital intensive.
Right.
Togg's up against, like you said, these established players with like decades of experience,
Yeah.
global brand recognition, massive production capacity.
So scaling up production to meet potential global demand is a major hurdle. What else?
Pricing is another, I think, key challenge. Togg is aiming for that premium segment, as we discussed.
Right.
But to really break into international markets, especially those that are, price sensitive, they might need to offer more affordable models. So it's a tightrope walk.
Striking that balance between maintaining that premium image, but also reaching a broader market with competitive pricing,
Exactly.
that's got to be tough.
It is. It is. And then there are, the unforeseen bumps in the road, like the recent setback with the LG Energy Solution.
Right, the collapse of that battery plant deal that's got to sting a little bit. That partnership could have been huge for Togg, right?
Huge, yeah. That partnership could have given them a real edge, I think, in terms of both like battery technology and just like sheer production volume.
Right.
Now they'll need to find some alternative solutions which could impact their timeline and, potentially increase costs. So these are all factors that could affect their global competitiveness.
It makes you realize how much is riding on Togg's success. It's not just about selling cars. It's about national pride, technological innovation, and like potentially reshaping Turkey's image on the world stage.
Precisely. And that's what makes the story so compelling. It goes far beyond the automotive industry.
So, where does this all leave us? We've gone from like, a stalling car back in 61
Yeah.
to a nation that's like vying for EV dominance.
Yeah.
What's the takeaway, would you say, for our listener who's been following this whole Togg saga?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We can't predict the future, but what we can do is maybe kind of equip ourselves to analyze how this story unfolds.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And you've raised a great point, I think, which is that historical parallel. Like, it's impossible to ignore, right?
Yeah.
Does the Devrim incident, does that make Togg's success even more crucial? Like a kind of national redemption arc almost?
It's interesting, yeah.
Or on the other hand, does it make the stakes so high that, like, failure is almost too daunting to contemplate?
Wow. See, I hadn't even thought of it quite like that. It adds a whole other dimension to this whole thing, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Okay, so for our listener, what should we be, like, I guess, watching for in the coming months, years, whatever? What are the real indicators of whether Togg is, on track to actually achieve these ambitions?
Well, I think, first, keep a close eye on those production numbers. Can they scale up quickly enough to meet both that domestic demand we talked about, but then also make a dent in those global markets?
Right, because can they actually crack those markets, especially with, like, the Teslas of the world already, like, making inroads in Europe and things?
Exactly. That's the second key thing to watch.
Okay.
How will Togg position itself against these established players? Will they focus on maybe more niche markets, like emphasizing their premium branding and those, unique features you mentioned? Or will they maybe need to adapt their pricing strategy to appeal to a wider audience?
It's a crowded playing field out there.
Mm.
They're going to need like a compelling narrative
Yeah.
to really stand out. And not just for their cars, but for like Turkey's role in this whole like EV revolution.
I think you're absolutely right. And the third element I would say to pay attention to is the role of the Turkish government.
Because they've been so key so far.
Exactly. Will they continue to provide that, like, really crucial support, the incentives, the infrastructure development, all that? Because government policies can really make or break these kinds of ventures.
It's a fascinating case study, really. So, like, I guess after this deep dive, have we reached, like, a verdict? Is Togg destined to be a flash in the pan? Or could Turkey really become, this major player in the global EV market?
I think, what's fascinating to me is how much this goes beyond just selling cars.
Yeah, for sure.
Togg's success or failure, it'll say a lot about Turkey's ambitions in technology and manufacturing, their place on the global stage. Will they become the next Tesla? It's still too early to say, but I think they've already achieved something pretty remarkable, which is that they've made everyone kind of sit up and take notice.
I love that. They've injected a jolt of energy, so to speak, into this whole EV landscape.
Precisely. And that's why the story's so important to follow, because it has the potential to really reshape not just an industry, but, like you said, perceptions as well.
That is a fantastic note, I think, to end on. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us. It's been illuminating, to say the least. And a huge thank you to our listener for sending us these thought-provoking articles. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those wheels turning.